Alright, this is the beginning for the Battle of Nihriya, which is a battle again between the Hittites up here and the Assyrians down here in the purple. This is another free setup scenario, which means I probably did something really dumb. I should look at these and think, well, how reasonable am I being? But I've got some thoughts here. So for the Hittites, I've stretched out their chariots at the front, put a rear guard of infantry. Now their infantry is weaker than, the armies are slightly different. Their infantry's overall weaker primarily because of the bowmen. You'll see the bowmen for the Hittite infantry in a moment. I'm sorry, for the Assyrian infantry in a moment. This Hittite army is a somewhat smaller version of the same thing that we saw at Kadesh. 3 chariot divisions, mixed, mainly these heavier 3-man chariots, and then some of these 2-man lighter ones that I put on a flank with an outflank intention. Stretch that out, but the infantry is back behind for the sole purpose of trying to defend the flag somewhat. Well, not sole purpose, but to push forward a line of something that's not going to go flying all over the place in front of that flag. Now, this is kind of tricky because the commander for the sort of first division here of the chariots is the king, and he's got the flag. Now, if he leaves it behind, he can't rally units, which is what we've kind of seen. Do you drag that in front? Do you leave it behind? I want to make sure that there's no pickings. The Assyrians took a slightly different view. They've also put their flag kind of to the rear. This is their royal guard chariots, and the king's flag is in there. But here's the interesting thing. They put their infantry front and center. It's fairly powerful, but it's still just plain old shock infantry, which means it's going to have trouble against chariots. But they noticed that the Hittite chariots in the front are all these javelin-armed ones, which aren't as scary. It's the lights that can ride by the infantry and just, chew up a flank, turn around, chew it up again. Or if they wish, they can stand off and do the run up, fire, turn, fire, or run up, fire, turn, and run away, and go back to where they were with one chariot flip roll, from what I can understand of the system. That's pretty potent, actually, only having to do the one flip. Because if you actually manually did it out, there would be so many flip rolls for that. But the fact that they have composite bows in their archers means that they have a range of 3 hexes with them and a much more powerful firepower. The tables for that, let me pull them out, are just so much better. We've seen this effect before, but they're so much better. Here's the composite bow versus the self bow. You can see the numbers where it's doing hits 1 through 7 is the same, but then it's 0 through 4 out of 2 hexes versus 0 through 2. And if we also look at the modifiers for the 2, the composite bow does a little better against the heavier armor types. Well, and against the lighter armor types. So, in general, it's just a much better weapon. So even the numbers on the chart are changed because of the armor effectiveness, which is almost an across-the-board bonus. So that's a big deal. I'm counting on their infantry having a lot more staying power and being able to march up in front. Chariot-wise, the Hittites obviously have more chariots. You can see they swing out here. If we poised these in, there'd be a nice break in the line there for the Assyrian chariots. So those are kind of the advantages. One more thing, the fast chariots for the Assyrians have runners attached to them. Now, of course, I can leave those behind and let them do what they will if I really want to use them for firepower, but I'm looking at the possibility of them being able to fare their own against these slower chariots. I wish I had set up the opposite side. I'm thinking about reversing that. because I think lights with runners are really potent against lights. And here's the thing, the Assyrians got to set up second. So I think I'm going to... The reason I put them over here was to keep them near the commander so I would have more momentum chances. But the truth here is... I think it's more important... Man, see, I'd love to have the momentum with them, but I think it's more important to have them facing the tactical system that they're better against, and put these heavier chariots up against other heavier chariots. So I think I'll switch that way. I'll probably keep the same formation, though, with a reserve on the left flank. Well, numerically, I didn't have enough to build that reserve, so I feel a little weaker over here now. But I really like this weight here to try to pound that side. And, well, I'm going to try to advance slowly with the Assyrians because of this. I don't know much about this battle, actually. I mean, I've got what's written here, and it doesn't seem like they know much about it here either. Whether, hey, maybe this was a climactic battle that decided that Assyria was once again kind of a power and the Hittites were really in decline. Or maybe this was just one of many skirmishes that just happened to get more press. And that's one of the problems. You know, we're going so far back here. What are we looking at? 1230 BCE. This is just, you know, the whole series is just so far down in the dawn of time. At least civilized time. Alright. Well, I'll get to it soon. The Assyrians start off with initiative, and they pushed forward their infantry to begin with, but then they got every single other one of their activation markers, so their entire line moved forward. Then the Hittites got their momentum marker, fired off this division, which moved into a standoff attack, shooting up the runner infantry, which can't shoot back. They didn't destroy any or anything, but they certainly weakened this already kind of weak flank. Now, they got another activation on that same group. They're going to swing by and kind of shoot it up and try to turn around and come back for another pass after they can reload their missiles. That's their view on this. Without the king over here, there's no way these things are going to get a momentum check. That's kind of a problem, I think, with the particular system in this one. Compared to the normal great battles of history where leaders can kind of jump in and trump for initiative in most things. Of course, samurai didn't have that as well. Samurai had something where you had to be in range of the commander-in-chief. So each of these games is a little different. I find myself not really liking being handcuffed without some chance of a roll. Of course, in SPQR, this sucker would be finished already and he couldn't make a check. I've started the firing, but I want to amend that last statement. In SPQR, actually, the die roll of doom can cause someone who who's already been activated and is finished to make an action. But the real reason I came back, I wanted to show the point values here. This is the starting point values. I have 85 for the Assyrians and 80 for the Hittites, and I think I've got that backwards. Oh no, 75 for the Assyrians, 80 for the Hittites. The Hittites are given a slight edge because they're defending home territory, supposedly. Although it's pretty far from their real homeland. Not as far as Kadesh was. Okay. Anyway, I'll continue. I'm pulsing this, kind of swinging each unit by, not getting close enough to draw any reaction fire, and firing only at the runners, and turning around, running away. Yeah, if these charge me, I may have to take a cohesion hit to run from them, but that's okay. I'm picking off the units as I choose, and I really, that's a very, very powerful ability. And we're at the end of the turn. The Hittite lights span through. They shot out 2 of those runner infantry back here in routing state. Turned the first heavy division and moved it again to hit this flank. I'm planning on breaking the chariots on this side and trying to wreck that infantry formation by using the superiority that the chariots have. If there's nothing to guard the flank, that should be easy, I think, from what I've played. It's hard to tell, though, because, again, we've got a stronger archer contingent on these. On this side, very, very cautiously moving forward, just to provide a little bit more screen to the infantry, and mainly because, well, in addition, the infantry didn't get to push forward as far. They moved before this chariot line that was right in front of them, so they didn't get as much distance as they would have liked. The flag is down here, which is not where I wanted it. I wanted it back there, but I gotta command my unit, and I know what I'm planning on doing. So, well, we'll try to keep the heavier chariots somewhere within range so that I can get the infantry up to protect the flag somewhat. I can still use the infantry to hit this other infantry, though. Well, the Assyrians got initiative. I'm beginning to fear that I'm strongly misplaying them. I charged forward to get the first strike in. A lot of options here. I could have done speedy withdrawal here. That gets rid of my screening of the flank, though I didn't want to do that. I could have done standoff attacks, which I did over here, just staying at 2 hexes where those javelins can't reach me and shooting at them. But instead, where I had the runners, I charged forward. I even threw the leader in. A little risky there. My plan is to swing the royal chariots around behind and shore up this flank. So I think I've got the advantage even with just this chariot division versus that one, to tell you the truth. This looks just a little bit bigger. I need to match what's over there and then bring my infantry into play. But I don't know if it's going to work out that way. The way the chariots are slamming together here and then along here, all engaged after combat, it feels almost like a push of pikes, of hoplites or something slamming into each other. Nothing's budging. This doesn't feel normal. Now, obviously, instead I could have chosen to do charge-throughs had I had the more movement. Here it's difficult with the runners that can block it, and they actually made the attack. And I was under this perception of this advantage of making the attack, especially when you're equal quality units in this system. I'm not so sure how important it is, because I'm hitting decent quality stuff. It all passed its tactical quality checks. Some of it should have failed, but one of them may have. This guy who broke here in the corner, I think, probably took a couple hits from it, because he had a lot of hits against him that I can't justify otherwise. Anyway, not a lot of movement there on the Assyrian side. Now they're all locked in combat. Even the flanks didn't really break anything. I was kind of expecting to crumble this line, do a lot of damage to it, and be able to swing my Hittites around on this flank now that they're pulling the royal chariots this way. But I don't know, those things look pretty solid to me. Here we're at the end of the turn prior to any cleanup. The Hittites got the first division activated, and they pushed it forward just into kind of this line, prepared to provide some sort of buffer. I don't know what it's going to do, because if the infantry advances, it can just run away. It certainly doesn't want to stand there and take an infantry attack, I don't think. The SI versus the Chariot 3 is on the 6 table with the disadvantage of being the defender. The problem is, if it runs away, it's just running away. It's, opening, it's not providing any kind of screen, really. Of course, it does cause some interference. Means that the king can't fire off a rally event if he's actually planning on making them run, even though he's got plenty of room to advance if he wasn't. They also used the rest of the first division to kind of crunch into these units, fight them some more, and that didn't go well, even with the flank attack, because there are runners mixed in there. So it was kind of a harder slog fighting back. Weird situation. Not what I've been seeing in most of this game, or most of this particular game. The second Hittite division didn't do what I kind of wanted to do, which was just whip around and come shooting down and pick this guy off. They need to be healthier than that would allow. They might get some lucky kills, but they're not getting many kills here. Everything they hit is just routing and staying on the field. And then the Assyrian momentum, and I chose not to trumpet, pushed the Royal Guard forward, and the Royal Guard also pushed their infantry forward an extra space, or an extra set of movement, which gave them a fatigue point. Alright, up this one goes. That's, one more thing. There was a dude here, and he's dead. Rolled a 0, failed to roll a 3 or less. They'll be coming back on the next turn, on the next activation for them. Not quite as good a leader. But what's interesting is you don't take any route points from losing lesser leaders. Your overall commander costs you like 5 times his value, which makes sense. He's the king. I mean, but that's different from what I'm used to. I'm used to a small charge going for every leader you lose. Here, they're just leaders. They're supposed to die. All right, up it goes.